halfway there, halfway there, halfway there, halfway there. So, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Episode 4, I plunged to my death. No, the show isn't getting better, but I guess by default this was the best episode so far because it was the shortest. And that's something that bugs me, is that everybody was all up for this show because, oh, they can adapt the book so closely now so they can get as many details right as they want. Yet this entire episode was less than half an hour once you take out the recap and take out the end credits. This episode was about 25 minutes. So what's the point? This literally adapted one chapter. One. In a book that is like 22 chapters long, this show has 8 episodes, and its 4th episode adapted one fucking chapter. Really? But I guess we should get into it. It starts with a really pointless flashback of Percy having trouble learning how to swim as a kid. Yeah, real clever there, Riordan. God, why are these flashbacks even here? And then we get another dream sequence with the big shadowy figure talking to Percy in his cliche villain raspy voice. And I'm still certain that's Kronos. It's either Kronos or Hades, and my money would probably be on Kronos because he had nightmares of Kronos a couple times in the books. So that's what I'm assuming. But they're not done well because and they have no purpose because it's just Percy standing around in a desert, and I'm just gonna keep going with Kronos because I'm assuming that's who it is. So I'm just gonna call him that. Kronos talking to him in this cliche villain raspy voice, and again, it would be. I'd let it go a little bit, say, okay, what they're putting in the dream sequence is fine, but he adds nothing to the story. He doesn't say anything meaningful. It's just the most cliche villain dialogue you can get. And then there's a long, dragged-out conversation between Percy and Annabeth that's not really worth going into. It features a monologue by Percy that's alright, I guess, but it's nothing special. Again, a lot of the dialogue in this show is just bad, so passable dialogue, I guess, is worth praise, but it's really not. And then the rest of the episode is just them being chased by the Chimera. Or I guess it's mainly Echidna chasing them. The Chimera doesn't show up until the ass end of the episode. And Echidna shows up on the train. Percy gets poisoned by the Chimera on the train, and they get off and get to the St. Louis Arch to take refuge, because in this version, well, in the book it was mentioned that the Ark was built by a child of Athena, because most of Athena's children were philosophers, architects, stuff like that, so it makes sense. But here it's done that it's a refuge for them, that monsters will not come in. But they make the exception this time. Athena lets them come in because of sending Medusa's head to Olympus. And this is a really dumb change that I don't really understand the point of. Just have the fucking creature follow them into the arch. Just say they went into the arch because maybe they won't be attacked because there's a ton of people around. There's an easy explanation for this. Hell, in the book, they weren't even being chased yet. And the train had stopped, and they had time to kill. Then they really didn't have anything else to do, because they really couldn't go anywhere without the train. So they walked around the arch for a little bit for what they assumed was just going to be a quick sightseeing trip before they had to continue on their quest. And I pointed out that I prefer the movie's version where they have to go into these places to collect the pearls, because it makes the characters look and feel less stupid. But the more I think about it, in this scenario, it was fine, because they couldn't go anywhere. So you know what? Fuck it. Let's go see this monument that Annabeth wants to see. Fine. It was not like we're going to be able to do anything else for the next 20 minutes because the train is stopped. But then they get to the arch, and I will say, like I said, Percy gets poisoned by the Chimera on the train, and this does lead to one kind of funny bit where Percy's like starting to feel the effect of the poison, and then it cuts to Annabeth and Grover splashing him with the water from the fountain. That was a little funny, but it was kind of ruined by the fact that they say that it doesn't work because it has to be natural water or some shit that's able to heal him. And this doesn't make sense because water is water, right? There's no such thing as artificial water. Whether you want to say it's purified water or not, that's still water. That makes absolutely no sense. And we'll get back to that, and we'll kind of get back to that in a second. So they race to the top of the arch for some reason, and then I guess they do it up there so they can keep the monster distracted. And Annabeth volunteers to keep it distracted while Grover takes Percy to the lake, but Percy goes instead, obviously. If it wasn't already painfully obvious, whether you read the book or not, that Percy was going to stay behind, that would have been a decent scene where he offers to hand her his sword, and when she reaches for it, he pushes her on the other side of the door and shuts the door behind them so that he can stay back. Again, that was glaringly obvious, but I guess it would have been fine if it was an original story, I guess. And he stays behind to fight the Chimera, and the fight is fucking lame. Again, just like the Minotaur fight, he doesn't do shit. This is literally what happens. He draws the sword. Oh, by the way, there is a ridiculous amount of dialogue in this episode. Not just the long, drawn-out conversation between Percy and Annabeth. I don't think there is a single second of this show where somebody isn't talking. 26 minutes, roughly, is how long this episode is without the credits. By the way, there was a tease for the next episode, and there's a lot of shit that I don't really... Like, there's some golden throne that Percy's sitting on that's, like, turning him to gold or something. Because the next one's the water park, so... And it does show the water park, obviously, but I don't understand what was going on in the other scene, but whatever. But there's a ridiculous amount of dialogue in this episode. That's been a problem that's plaguing this show already, because I don't think there's a single second of this show that somebody isn't talking. Echidna is constantly talking. Grover's constantly talking. Honestly, I think the person with the least amount of dialogue in this episode is fucking Percy Jackson. You know, the main character. I thought Percy was supposed to have all the one-liners and quips and everything, but he talks the least, and Annabeth still kind of treats him like an asshole still kind of an asshole to him in the beginning of the episode. But this fight sucks balls. Echidna is constantly talking. She doesn't shut up. She doesn't really do anything. Like, she breaks the floor with the force, I guess. I don't remember that being a thing in the original. There's no other mortals in this area when the Chimera shows up, so stakes for trying to save other people be damned. And Percy swings the sword twice, just like the Minotaur. He slightly slashes its leg, it doesn't do shit, and then gets hit back. Then tries to swing it again, and gets hit back again. And falls off the fucking arch. And Echidna is still monologuing all the way until he drops. And unlike the novel, where he finally decides to trust his divine parentage and jump off, hoping trusting that his father will save him, or at least praying that his father will save him, he legitimately falls. And instead of him, like, just falling and landing in the water below, the water's way the fuck over there, and in a big, like, a big stream of the water grabs him and pulls him over to the water, because that change was totally necessary and wasn't a waste of bad CGI. Also, the Chimera looks awful. Not just the CGI, which looks pretty bad, but the design is terrible. This thing is not fucking scary. I've seen so many designs for chimeras in mythology books and in even just art in general of people who have drawn the Chimera, and that thing looks pretty badass. This thing is just a tiger with horns. It's a green tiger. It's the fucking tiger from Coco, just with horns. And I guess some fish gills when it breathes fire? I don't know. The thing isn't intimidating. It's actually kind of adorable. This big cat-looking thing with horns. I'd keep that thing as a pet. Assuming it wouldn't kill me, but it probably would, so I won't keep it as a pet. But I stand by it. That thing's not intimidating. That thing's adorable. And then there's the thing underwater. I don't remember what you call it. The water sprite. I don't think that's right. But you know what I'm talking about if you read the book. Like, it comes over, like, shows up in the water when Percy's down there, and again, is constantly fucking talking, while Percy's trying to get his foot unstuck from the mud below in the polluted-ass Mississippi River. This water, I'm just gonna keep calling it Sprite, I don't remember what else to call it. Just talking, and talking, and talking, and accomplishing fucking nothing. That's the best way I can describe this episode. It accomplishes fucking nothing. It adapts one chapter from the book, wasting a ton of goddamn time. I assumed this episode would end maybe with like a surprise cameo from Ares at the end. Like, that scene would be the start of it. But no, it ends, and he's still in the river talking to this fucking spur, or he's not doing any talking, he's just sitting, and the episode ends with the big reveal of, he can breathe underwater. Even if you haven't read the book, you already had to know that he was able to breathe underwater. Even if you haven't seen the movies or read the books, you had to know this already, because he's the fucking son of Poseidon, for God's sake. So, I guess by virtue, this was the least worst episode because it was short, but there's so much dumb shit in this episode that doesn't make sense. And again, people bitch about the changes from the movie, but this one changed so much, and it's still awful. Again, the acting is terrible, and with the kids, you can kind of give them a pass, but that just proves Chris Columbus's point of why he casted older actors, because younger actors do not have the emotional range to play these characters properly. You'll find a 1 in maybe 100 actors that can pull that off, but you're not going to find very many. That's why he casted Logan Lerman, who was 17, and Alexander Daddario, who was like 22 or something, whatever, to play an older version of the characters so they could have more, because they would have more emotional range. There's also like the child labor laws and everything, but he stated very clearly that it was to give the characters more emotional range. And that was shown in these episodes. And Echidna's actress is really bad. She does nothing but monologue very blankly, just like Sally does in this show. And she spends so long monologuing to them while they're on the train before pulling out the Chimera, or at least its little stinger that stings Percy. So, this is not getting better. In fact, even though this is technically the least worst episode, I'd say it's getting worse because this episode was so damn short and didn't accomplish a damn thing. Oh my god, we're halfway there though. We're halfway there. Just 4 more episodes and I can be done with this crap. I will be so relieved when this goddamn mini-series of a show, catastrophe of a mini-series is over. So that's all I got, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.